Hey everyone, so I want to make a quick video on how to make a balanced cable for the Audeze MM-100 headphones. Okay, so thanks to this article on the Audeze website, we see the internal connection for this jack here. It's a 3.5 millimeter 4-pole connection. And what makes the MM-100s different than other headphones is that you can connect the audio cable to either the left or the right ear cup and it'll work just fine. And that's due to the way they're connected internally. So if we look at the article, this is the way that the headphone is connected internally. And the important thing to note is that everything you need for a balanced connection is on one of the jacks on one side of the ear cup. So for a balanced cable, you're only going to need to connect it to one of the sides because it has everything you need for that balanced connection. As we see here, for a balanced connection on your headphone amplifier, what you're going to need is a cable that has left positive, left negative, right positive, and right negative. And so looking at the left side, for example, we see here that it has left positive connected to this pole here. It has left negative connected to this pole in the bottom here. And then if we follow along this dark black line, we see that it connects to R negative. So this one on top has R negative. And finally, we follow this red line here. We see that it has R positive. So we have everything we need on that one side of the ear cup for our balanced connection. And so what I recommend for building your balanced cable is to purchase a low cost 4-pole 3.5 millimeter cable such as this one right here. I'll go ahead and leave a link to that down in the description of this video, but it seems like a very good quality cable. And the second thing you'll need is this adapter here, which pretty much takes a 4-pole 3.5 millimeter and converts it into a 4-pin balanced XLR connection. And so let's take a closer look at this 3.5 millimeter 4-pole cable to see how it's all going to work for the balanced connection. So once you plug in the cable to the headphone, then on this other end, you're going to have the tip being L positive. The first ring is going to be R positive. The second ring here is going to be left negative. And finally, the sleeve at the end here is going to be R negative. And again, that's everything we need for our balanced connection for a 4-pin XLR going to our balanced headphone amplifier. Okay, once you connect that 3.5 millimeter cable to this adapter here on the XLR end, what needs to happen is that these pins match this right here. And the important thing to note is this pin layout here is actually the pin layout on your headphone amplifier, not this connector here. So in order to figure out which pin corresponds to which one, we're gonna have to kind of flip the connector and pretend that it's plugged in. And so then if you do that, you see that this pin right here that's currently on my left side is gonna correspond to left positive. The next one will be left negative, and then moving on to the right will be R positive followed by R negative. But how can we verify this to make sure there's no damage to our headphone or amplifier? Well, there's an easy way. What we're gonna use is a multimeter, and I'll go ahead and link this one because this one has worked out great for me. If you deal with anything that's electronics based and audio and all that, this is very useful. And this particular multimeter has worked out great for me. So we're gonna go ahead and use it to confirm that the TRRS connector, also known as tip, ring, sleeve, matches what we see here on Audeze's article to the pins on the XLR connector, such that they're gonna work with our balanced amplifier. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that up and we'll take a look. Okay, so I'm using this little clamping system to hold the XLR connector and the TRRS connector over here on the right. And what you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and turn on your multimeter and then set it to the symbol here to test for continuity. And what that essentially will do is if you put one lead on one end of the cable and then you put the other lead on the other end, it will beep if there is continuity or a connection between those 2 points. So I'll go ahead and leave the multimeter there, but it's just gonna beep to let us know. It doesn't really matter which end you put to which connector. So I'm just gonna use this red lead for the XLR connector, and then I'm gonna use this black one for the TRRS connector. So the first thing we want to test is that the tip is L plus, and if I touch it, it should correspond to this pin all the way on the left here. Again, remember, we have to flip this connector such that it connects to the amp portion there. So right here, we see this pin is actually on the right is number 1. It's actually going to be on the first one on our left here on this connector. So I'm going to go ahead and put the negative lead to the tip here. And then I'm going to try the different pins on the XLR connector. Notice there's no beeping. As soon as I touch the first one though, and of course I forgot one crucial thing, we want to connect our cable to this adapter, otherwise there won't be any continuity at all. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and touch the tip with the negative lead, and then I'm going to try to touch some of these other pins to see if I get continuity. Nope, nothing there. It's not until we get to this first pin, you hear that beeping? That means that there's continuity from this tip all the way to pin number 1, which is on our left side. Great. So far we verified that L plus is connected properly. Now we're going to go with the first ring right here. And then if we look at the Audeze article, that corresponds with R plus, which on our balance connection diagram over here would be number 3. And again, pin number 3 is going to be flipped. If we touch the other ones, it won't work. So it won't work till we hit pin number 3 there. So we just verified R plus. Now we go to the second ring, which corresponds to L negative, which is pin number 2, which again is flipped and should be on this side right here. And there we go, that's verified. And finally, the sleeve will be R negative, and that's going to correspond to pin number 4, which again is reversed. It's going to be this top right one on the XLR connection. And there we go, verified. Okay, now that we've verified everything, we could go ahead and connect the balanced cable to our MM-100s, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a try on my balanced amplifier, the THX AAA789. So let me get that ready. So in the end here, this is the balanced cable you end up with, and I'm going to go ahead and try it on my balanced headphone amplifier. And so here's my balanced headphone amplifier. I'm going to go ahead and connect XLR cable. And this THX AAA789 is actually pretty good at letting you know there's something wrong with the cabling. This little light will start flickering and it'll kind of turn off your amplifier to protect it from any possible damage. But others may not be so lucky, so that's why you got to test with the multimeter, especially if you're going to create your own cable. And the MM-100s are really efficient, so you'll want to set your volume down as much as possible. Okay, so here are the headphones. I put the left ear cup on the left and the right ear cup on the right here. I'm going to go ahead and play the video. We hear it coming out of the left ear cup, and now it's coming out of the right ear cup. And there we go. That's how you can create your own balanced cable for the Audeze MM-100s. Again, I will leave a link both to the cable and the XLR adapter down in the description. Now, one last thing I wanted to mention is, what if you have a portable DAC amp that takes a balanced Pentacon connector such as this? This is a 5-pole 4.5 millimeter Pentacon connector. Now, it's important to note that for audio for this type of connector, only left positive, left negative, R negative, and R positive are needed. So you should be able to create a balanced cable by buying this 3.5 millimeter 4-pole cable, and then by finding an adapter, it's going to take you from this 3.5 millimeter 4-pole cable and convert it onto a balanced 4.4 millimeter Pentacon cable. But you can follow the same procedure I did earlier by verifying with a multimeter that the cables are wired properly. And if I do find an adapter, I will go ahead and also link that in the description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.